Hi, everybody. Here is Sarah Palmer and Linda Yao here again from the Free Library of Philadelphia, hashtag ToshokanFLP. Last week we focused on DL and maybe touched a bit on GL, but we found out we had a lot more to say than we had time for at that point. So we are going to cover some of the ground we missed. And so basically when we left off, we were about to talk about GL. First, I want to quickly show you Our Dreams at Dusk by Yuki Kamatani. We talked a little bit about own voices last week, and the fact that BL is very often, boys love is very often written by women, especially for a female audience. And hang on just a second. And so, but in this case, this book is written by Yuki Kamatani, who was better known for writing Nabari no O, a very good fantasy series. But Yuki actually identifies as non-binary, and this story is the story of a disparate group of people variously identifying as lesbian, gay, bi, trans, and more, and despite their different ages and backgrounds, they all come together in this strangely welcoming house by the sea. I really recommend it. It's got some of the painful aspects of trying to make your way as a queer person in society, but it also has touches of romance and sweetness to it. Definitely recommended. So now let's get on to GL. Did you want to say anything before I go into my spiel?
GL, also known as Yuri. I call it Yuri, but then again, I think Sarah has a much more official take on what is girls love. Mm-hmm. So, because I am more of a fan, I never realized that Free Library had so much. Yeah. So I'm still trying to comb through it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so, yeah, we also have at least Sweet Blue Flowers, I know, is in our collection.
We do.
Yeah, and that's also available as a manga, but I don't know if I think the manga is available too.
It's in. We have the DVDs, but we also have the graphic novels in Central, Teen Central. So
yeah, one thing about GL is that I think last time I mentioned that it started out kind of as stories of romantic friendships, semi-platonic, semi-romantic friendships in high schools, usually all girls schools for the wealthy. And so there's still stories that follow that vein, including things like Mary watches over us, Maria sama ga miteru. But the field has become a lot more diverse. And one thing I wanted to show, I don't know if this is backward for the rest of you, but it says Blue, and it's by Kiriko Nananan. And this was a GL title that was published in the Nouvelle Manga movement, where there were Japanese mangaka who interacted with French comic artists. And
I wanted to read that.
It's a beautiful book. It's a kind of hyper realistic, very simple art, very simple in the sense of spare, not a lot of clutter. And yeah, it's really quite lovely. So
okay, then we have to move the trash cans actually.
I'm going to mute our friends until we get to the discussion.
Ah! Wait. Ah! Sorry, I muted you, Sarah.
And moving on to yet quite individual in its own way, we have Ritate Kanji, which was also published some time ago. And it's written by an out lesbian, and it covers kind of romance and also daily life in a very stylized format. The art style I would probably call a humorous art style, but it does deal with some more serious issues. And I got it signed by the mangaka. Yes, admire me. Okay, yet another very, very unusual yuri title would be My Solo Exchange Diary.
That's a sequel. That's a sequel.
My lesbian experience with loneliness. And this is, it's basically autobiographical, though told with some humor, I'd say stylistic humor.
It's 4 coma, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. There are four frames per page, although a lot of the story it doesn't necessarily have the punchline at the end, the way some would. And this young woman has a lot of issues. She knows she's lesbian, but she does not. She's basically sort of like a hikikomori for a lot of the books. And I mean, so she has a very wry sense of humor, and you end feeling very sympathetic. You feel empathy for her because she's really telling it like it is for her. But it's so, I mean, it's very far from being a romance the way so many GL or yuri titles are.
I think it's a very tongue-in-cheek, but it's very realistic tongue-in-cheek.
I would call it
it's very
funny for the most part. And now just quickly shifting gears into more standard GL. We've got Milk Morinaga is a very prolific and a very widely published in English mangaka. And pretty much all her stories have to do with high school girls, although not necessarily going to an all-girls school, although I think there were some of those. And often the personalities will be quite different. I think sometimes she goes for the quiet, bookish girl and the loudmouth but sweet-spirited, popular girl. But the stories are sweet. They have difficulties and happy resolutions in the end. And my last GL title that I'm featuring in print is After Hours by Yuta Nishio, or Nishio Yuta, I guess. It depends. I'm not sure which one's the first name. Yuta is probably the personal name. Anyway, so this is unusual among the GL that make it into English in that it features people who are not in high school or even in college. They are graduates, they're in their 20s, and this person, quite by accident, stumbles into the rave scene in Tokyo, and she's already deeply involved and drags her in almost unwillingly, and they fall in love, but their experiences are not smooth across the board. It's hard to keep the rave scene going when you're also trying to put food on the table, and but the romance is very down to earth in some ways, and I was very impressed by it. Basically, it's a 2-volume series, so easy to digest. Okay, do you want to? Shall we switch to live action and then go into the webtoons?
Okay, sure. Are we gonna go into? Are we going to go into talking about BL now or GL now?
We're switching back to mostly BL, I'd say, because we can.
Oh, I was gonna start. Oh, and then afterwards, can we switch back over to GL? Because
why don't you do GL first? I didn't realize you had some left.
Okay. Whoops. Well, I actually, I don't have the print copy of it, but one of them, the Rita likes with the girlfriends, right? I really liked Whispered Words by it's published by One Piece. And not the anime One Piece, but you know, Peace and Love, that piece.
Yeah.
And it's like a unrequited love story between two females who won't tell each other that they are in love with, that they like each other. And I thought that was
the problem.
I thought that it was a really nice story. It was like an omnibus style of Girlfriends had two volumes, right?
Yes. Yes, it did.
Whispered Word has 3 volumes, just about the same thing.
And I'm going to hop in quickly and say that I used to love Whispered Words until they did something with the trans character that really made me angry. They just turned that person into a figure of mockery, and
I know.
I did not like that.
Very unexpected. That was very unexpected. I did not realize that was the thing. The next title I want to talk about was, you guys see? I married my best friend to shut my parents up. I think Sarah is okay with reading about schoolgirls, but I am all more for reading josei titles. Yeah. So I'm very into this one. This is a really sweet story.
Can you say the author? Because I can't read the author's name.
The author is a story and art by Kodama Naoko. This is published by 7 Seas, and 7 Seas publishes a lot of GL mangas in English so far.
And they've been doing it for years now. They were early and they're still doing it, which is great.
They have, but then as a publisher, I always thought of them as a more fan servicey one, but not to insult them, but they are starting to get a lot more graphic novels that I really would throw money at them for.
Yes, absolutely.
Sarah mentioned the one that I wanted to talk about. She mentioned the sequel. I'm going to mention the prequel, which is
My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness?
Yep. My Lesbian with Loneliness. It reminded me of a graphic novel I read by Chester Brown. Instead of, Chester Brown wrote a story about my experiences with being a John, which is the male version of asking for a prostitute. But in this one, the prequel, or the first book of my experiences with being a lesbian with loneliness. Oh, I'm messing up the title actually.
My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness.
Yes. So it's a mouthful. I agree. But it's also an experience where it talks about the seedy life of legalized prostitution.
That's true.
Or services in Japanese society, which you definitely do not see in American society unless you decide to visit Las Vegas. Las Vegas has legalized prostitution. But the thing is also there's another one I wanted to talk about, which is called Syrup.
Oh, right. You had mentioned that.
It's a lot. It's like, it also has Milk Morigani's art in it, all right? So this is also 7 Seas, but it's an anthology. And anthologies I liked at times because they often represent a diversity of authors. So you would not expect to see it. But this is also, by the way, this is also an adult title.
Yeah.
Not kidding, it's an adult title with adult themes, so I'm more for that. But if you want me to talk about a teen title, junior high school, I just finished reading this. This is Breath of Flowers. It is a book that we actually have in free library. So it's only 2 volumes. Yeah. So I read it and it was fast, it was quick, it was sweet. Yeah. And that's it. I think, unless if you want me to talk about the histories of Yuri.
We could explore that at a different time, I think.
Explore that at a different time. Yep.
The Sweet Blue Flowers is another that we could quickly mention. It's by I'm blanking. Takako Shimura, who is also responsible for Wandering Sun, deals to some degree with trans issues. Sweet Blue Flowers is 2 childhood friends who kind of evolve, and after having brushes with other people, eventually come towards each other romantically. So I enjoyed it. It's an anime too. Maybe the subtext becomes a bit more explicit in the manga, but they're both good.
Okay, so Sarah,
Yes.
Makia asked me to talk about Breath of Flowers book. All right.
Oh, sure.
Citrus. There's an anime
You
about
go,
it.
Breath of Flowers. I want to know about it too.
Okay, so Breath of Flowers is a love story between Azami and Gwyn.
Yeah.
Gwyn is short for Gwendolyn. And so Gwendolyn is actually in her school, like she's not saying that she's a girl, but she's part of the basketball team. And so the story talks about how all of Azami's friends, they love BL. She doesn't love BL. So, but the thing is that she started thinking Gwen was a boy from the very beginning, but then she finds out that he is a she. So they but then afterwards, after she got pissed off and she gone over it, right? She starts to date Gwen, and Gwen actually eventually transfers to another school, as well as two more people kind of get in the way of the relationship between Azami and Gwen and her.
Course of true love never did run smooth.
Yep, and also, by the way, this is an OEL.
I was wondering.
This is not a Japanese
English
writer.
language. Yeah.
It's original English language, and so it's by Tokyo Pop. And as I mentioned before, wait, did I ever mention this before? Should I bash Tokyo Pop?
No, it's not time for. We have plenty to say about publishers later.
We'll do that in another episode if we do have time.
Yeah. So live action for the different countries that we can speak to, and then we're going to jump into some BL webtoons from a variety of places. So do you want to talk about Japan and Korean BL live action?
Oh, Japan and Korean. So far, I know a lot of other people have a lot more other stuff to talk about, but so far, for Japanese legally streaming video BL content with Japanese and Korean is something I watched on Viki. I don't know if you guys watch Viki.
Rakuten Viki.
Rakuten Viki. Yeah, good. So Korean, so far it's a schoolboy thing. But the Japanese one I saw is very racy, very 18 plus BL. But also I've seen in the past, I've seen the live action which was not the best situation, but it's fan sub. So I was watching Antique Bakery, and I've watched What Did You Eat Yesterday, which is acted live action, has one of the best actors I really like.
Who's that?
Which is what's his name? He was in a couple of other dramas as well. Oh gosh, I should be prepared for this. Yesterday, let's see, drama. So his name is Nishijima Hidetoshi.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to.
I really like him. I really like him because he has that kind of like unsmiling face, but he's real as Shiro. He was very good, even though he's not gay in real life.
Yeah, so that's cool. Excellent.
The Princess Story. Interesting. That's a Korean drama.
Right? It certainly sounds like a Korean drama. Maybe you can speak to that some more when we get to the general conversation stuff.
Okay.
I'm interested to know about that. I wanted to go into something that I have fallen in love with, which is Thai BL drama. And that kind of emerged from BL becoming popular as sort of bootleg stories, either light novels or manga in translation on the streets of Bangkok. There was already this big tradition of lakorns, which are Thai soap operas, and BL kind of edged its way into that. into that genre. And I'm going to show you a picture if I can find it. Where did you go? Show all. Okay, give me a sec. Well, what I wanted to say is that I've seen the complete versions of 13 of BL series so far, and there's at least 20 or so on my watch list that are going to be coming out in 2020. Most of which are coming out in later this year or in 2021. So you can see it's really a burgeoning area, and it seems to have had some impact on Vietnam as well. They've come out with their first couple of BLs as well as a GL and live action, and China is also coming out with its own. I believe it's mainland China, but I could be wrong. Let me see if I can find the thing that I had for all to see.
Are you going to be sharing your screen, Sarah?
I was going to be sharing my screen. Oh, here it is. Yes, give me a sec. Right quick. So there you are. Share screen. So this is one particular BL fans blog, and I wanted to point out that all these, I mean, there's photos from many different series here, and I've not seen any of those series. So it's really a lot of content out there. A lot of it is set in college, I'd say. Some in high school, a lot in college, but with an interesting variety of storylines, including fantasy where a ghost and a young boy who becomes a college-age student fall in love with each other. And there's reincarnations that happen too. I'd say He's Coming to Me is one of my favorites, but that's the one with the ghost. But there's other good ones too. I can definitely go more into that, but not right now. So, moving on to the webtoons, I'm
just gonna have to say a comment.
Yes,
the Kabedon maneuver at the bottom right corner.
Yes, that was imported wholesale from the Japanese BL.
Yes, yes.
So I'm going to stop that share for a moment, and we're going to move quickly on to some of the series that I've really fallen in love with on various legal web comic sites, many of which are Korean. Whoops. Hold your horses. Korean print manhwa, and I have to stand up for it since Linda does not like Korean print manhwa. So
I don't like it because everyone looks the same in it. I cannot understand why the uke and the seme so identical. I can't understand
that. Actually may have been truer at one point. I don't think it's so true these days. This is
I only buy a lot of ebooks right now, so that's my preference. I'm buying buying manga right now.
Yeah. Well, there's a limited amount of it available as print books, but
can you say the publishers for them?
Publishers, Net Comics is one of the biggest releasers of manhwa, and this is an earlier title that tops out, I think, at 7 volumes involving the mafia in Korea. Another school-age story.
Yeah, that's the one I think I read that. And I think I read the next one that you're talking about.
And this is 1001 Nights, which takes that whole story and plugs it into
Arabian Nights? Arabian Nights?
Yeah. With a BL focus, including the stories that are told. Many have a BL focus. So
But see, the characters look so similar. Oh my gosh.
I think you need to give it another chance.
I know. I'll give it another chance. If you're gonna say it, I will give it another chance.
So here's Intense, which also features the mafia. But the art I find the art gorgeous. I don't know. Okay, so
It's very simplistic. That's the thing. I would say it's very minimalistic, simplistic with a lot of black overtone coloring, right?
I would not generalize that either.
Okay, you wouldn't generalize. Okay.
Okay. So moving along, let me get to the place where I can springboard off into the other things. Okay.
Oh yeah, by the way, Sarah.
Yeah.
1:45. It's about 1:45.
Yeah, so we started at 3:15, so
Oh, okay then. 3:15.
yeah, so in 45 minutes from 3:15 at 4, we are going to launch into bringing all of you into the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm going to show some of my favorite webcomics, and that is happening starting now. Now, where is it? Is that it? I think that's it. Okay. Okay.
Oh, kitty! I hear kitty in the
Yes,
background.
and kitties are important. Okay. So is that? Are you seeing the Toshokan screen? The Summer of Wonder.
I am seeing a folder. I'm seeing your folder.
Let's see. If stop share and
I'm seeing your folder, and I hope it's nothing like
Nothing
that's
too
not
Yeah.
NSF. Yeah, because
yeah. Okay. So I hit stop, and now I'm going to share again.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. Okay, there we go. So here we are, and so some of the big we're going to talk about webcomics more in another setting, but right now we're just looking at some of the titles. There's a huge amount of different storylines, though again a lot are set in college. But so this is a manhwa that deals with a freshman in college who has this experience of having prophetic dreams, and the prophetic dreams will occasionally be forecasting disaster for other people, whether it's a small disaster like tripping on a spill and falling, or a big disaster like dying in a car accident. So he often gets into awkward situations where he tries to prevent the accident from happening. And in one such case, this young man who's his senior in college he runs into him in a cafe and realizes from a pattern of moles that he's the person who's going to die in a car accident. And so he tries to get to know him in order to be able to warn him eventually. But the senior thinks that he's coming on to him, and so romance ensues. But there's a lot of humor to it. And next.
By the way, is the format? I think the format is good for like a mobile, like a cell phone scenario, right?
It's a single column, so
single column. Okay.
Yeah. So there he is. There's the accident.
So you may or may not see, if you have a nice data plan, you could like read this, but it's really popular in Asian countries to read this on the train.
Yes, absolutely. And notice that most of the art is in color. So that's a nice difference. I mean, I love black and white manga, but it's also nice to have other things. So that story is pretty tame in terms of content. Then we have stories like A Man of Virtue, which features schoolmates that encounter each other again in college. Actually, not by accident. And
this is 18 plus, right? 18 plus, right?
Totally 18 plus, probably 25 plus. This is a situation where, from being very much rivals, one of them has an encounter with a statue of a lion dog, vomits all over the lion dog, and a spell is on him is created as a result, where he gets to see all the glasses guy's fantasies, which happen to involve him. And so, yeah, it's a long, drawn-out story, very funny in places, very bawdy in places. So
I would still like to see it, even if it's drawn out. I would still love to read it.
I recommend it. It's funny, and it's touching in spots too. Then going back to high school age, we've got Hisu in class 2, which he's kind of a cute, oblivious guy who's in love with his best friend. But in the meanwhile, somebody moves into the house next door who actually has a thing for him. But oblivious as he is and tight-lipped as he is, it takes a while before anything comes of this. Then a slightly more 18-plus oriented one with gorgeous art, Fate Makes No Mistakes. So this character is an adult orphan, and has a lot of yin energy because he was probably supposed to have died along with his parents. And as a result, with all that yin energy, he attracts a lot of dangerous evil spirits. But then this goblin comes into his life, and the goblin decides to protect him from the evil spirits. So we have a lot of soul reapers coming in, and several goblins, the head of Enma, the equivalent of Enma, the king of hell, and so forth. And
this looks kind of interesting. The
art
looks
really
interesting.
Really beautiful art. My way of thinking. Okay, back. No. Okay. And all of these so far have been manhwa, so very varied art, as you see. This is kind of a softer style of art, but the storyline is pretty serious. It's this young man is like a servant in the palace, and he's got a strong survival instinct, but he also has somebody he wants to protect. So he gets tangled up with a crown prince in disguise, and also a baby dragon, who is in the form of a human, who is also one of the princes. So it's still in progress, and a lot of parts of it are sad, but it's also very mysterious, and I recommend it. Thanks for your patience as I go through all these things that I love. Okay, here's one of the few, come on here. One of the few manhwa I've seen that's completely in black and white. And as it says, mature audiences only. It's set in the United States with a Korean American boy who's basically a rent boy for the mafia, and this very grumpy ex-con, and how they come into contact with each other and things develop. But it's got a strong tragic portion to it. Very engaging, but sad.
Sounds like a very sad title. Sad ending.
Yeah. Okay. Also with an aspect of tragedy, we've got Gone with the Bubbles, which is the story of a modern merman who has to make the decision about whether to fall in love or not, since if he falls in love, his fate is either to dissolve into a pile of pearls, or he has to pluck out the heart of his lover. So it's not much of a middle ground there. So his childhood friend, the guy with the black hair, decides he's going to make sure that his friend never falls in love. And so things get pretty distorted from there. By the way, I'm not keeping track of the chat, so if you could let me know if anything comes up, that would be great. Okay.
Chat has been kind of quiet.
Yeah, okay, very good. Come on.
Oh, that reminds me. I do have one title I could mention that is a BL. That's by a foreign artist.
Okay.
But Sarah, you could finish.
Yeah, I'll just go through. So, whoops, I didn't mean to get the actual page of it. Fools is one of my favorites because it's this relatively serious, it's a college story with a very serious member of the guitar club who, to whom this freshman accidentally outs himself. And so he becomes kind of intrigued by the younger student, and gradually they fall in love with each other without necessarily really knowing what's happening to them. This is one of the cases where it was localized so that the so that the main characters have English names but Korean last names, which I thought was kind of weird, but the story is good enough that I didn't mind it. Oh, My Assistant again gets into slightly more 18+ territory with, as you see, and it's about a manhwa who needs to hire an assistant, and so this guy comes along with black hair, and he's very, very detail oriented. He's a great assistant. He's also very finicky and kind of distant. Little does he know that, in fact, the assistant is starting to develop a crush on him. So I really enjoyed that. It's another case of opposites attract. And okay, now I'm going to quickly move into, I guess it's 4 or 5 remaining titles, which cover different locations that have, what am I trying to say? Different countries of origin. So we've got Mismatch, which is originally Italian, and it's about an alternate universe 1920s, and these two are students at a school for magic wielders, and they too are very much opposites. They gradually come to understand each other and fall for each other, despite a lot of internalized and external homophobia. And Heartstopper is about, it's actually a spin-off graphic novel from a young adult author who's from Britain, who's published several things in English, several novels, but this is also coming out both in print and on Tapas. First BL encounter I've had with rugby. And there's actually a whole lot of manhwa that is Chinese graphic novels and webtoons that you find in web form but not in print form. I'm not sure I've seen any. I've seen very, very few Chinese manhwa in general in print, let alone BL. But this is one dramatic series where these two were high school and college friends, but they, yeah, I'll let you in just a second, but they we're getting towards 4, I'm sorry, yes. They're sex friends, but eventually the guy with glasses decides it's time for them to move on. That's when the other guy realizes, hey, this relationship is more important than I realized. Okay, I will shut up for now, and what were you going to say?
Because the thing is that Chinese market, even though there's a huge amount of people in the Chinese market, right?
Yeah.
Chinese market faces a lot of censorship.
Yes.
So I would probably say that mainland China, not really, or unless if you know certain people or certain ideas or certain terms. But if you know, if I know anything about Taiwan, Taiwan does have a lot of BL. They do. They're one of the they would localize Japanese manga into Taiwanese.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Well, no, they do have also people who are fans in China, in Taiwan. But one thing I also talk with my friends about, because they're Chinese from Taiwan, they say that their family is very conservative, so they will never mention it to their family that they're reading such a title.
Yeah,
even though
very
it's
undercover.
Very undercover. Oh, I wanted to talk about the two. There's wait. So what are you about to say, Sarah?
Oh, I just have this one last thing. So it's Fence. It's a multi-volume series about high school fencers. But the person who wrote it, I first encountered when she was a fan fiction author for Here is Greenwood, an old semi-BL-ish manga. And so I read her story and loved it and wanted more. And so I followed her and found out that she was writing an online, a web novel called Captive Prince. And I fell in love with that. And so that eventually became published by Penguin. So she's made it to the big time. And so now she's releasing this graphic novel series in collaboration with an artist. So I thought, I mean, there's a number of fan fiction authors who certainly become published authors, but I thought it was interesting that she started out as a fan fiction author for a graphic novel, and she's finally writing a graphic novel of her own. Okay, so that's it. Did you have more to say?
Well, what I like is, other than the fact that I'm typing something in the chat as a breakout question, I wanted to talk about two titles I was really into. I will be sharing, I think I'll be sharing my screen. Let me see, how does this go? Oh, share screen. And let's see. I usually do a lot of Kickstarters, all right, or Patreon. So this is a title I actually kickstarted, Letters for Lucario. It's about a love story between, it's 18 plus, it's seriously 18 plus. It's about an old man and a vampire, a black American, well, a dark-skinned man.
African.
They're not American. They're not American.
Right.
So
are they Finnish?
European, actually.
Yeah,
European.
they look. The name looks like it's
Finnish. Okay.
Yeah.
So this the dark-skinned man is a vampire, and he falls in love with this elderly gentleman. So there are two books for this one. All right.
Yeah.
And the other one I wanted to talk about is Dale Lazovo. I don't even know how I'm going to even sell any of his books. I have a lot of his books. Yeah. He, as an author, this entire thing is very pornographic. It's very pornographic. There's no speech bubbles or nothing, but there's just art. Yeah. So he actually wrote a couple of anthologies, and there's nothing but just lots and lots of hot, steamy sex.
Indeed. Could you say the author's name again? I missed it.
Dale Lazovo. I think it's called Dale Lazovo.
Dale Lazovo. Okay.
This one over here, Dale Lazovo. So he's the author, but then he would commission artists. So all the things that he published, all the things that he's ever published, right? He's not the artist, but he's the author. So it's very manly, very bare.
Yes, well, look at that mustache.
Very burly. So these are the most recent ones. So I think that's it that I want to share. So
okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. Oh, sorry to miss you, Makia. I hope we'll get to have you part. Oh, she's gone.
Yep, I think we have Uta Panya right now, so it's 4 o'clock. So we are stopping to record, but we are starting to talk.
I'm going to stop the recording now, so we can talk without having you need to consent to record unless you really want to.
So you could actually be on camera if you wanted to, because right now we are going to stop recording.
Yeah, hang on.